When your body feels like it's working against you, chronic fatigue drags you down, mysterious symptoms come and go without warning, and autoimmune issues disrupt your daily life. It's exhausting and confusing. You want answers, but doctors just manage the symptoms and tell you to come back when things get worse. You're left feeling stuck, dismissed, and unsure if relief is even possible. Then this is the episode for you. Robert Jean doesn't beat around the bush. He delivers the answer that you've been looking for, the missing piece that not only explains why your symptoms persist, but takes you straight to the root cause and shows you how to break free from the cycle of illness for good. I'm Crystal Dirksen, co-host of the Robert Jean Experience, here with your host, Robert Jean. He is a behavioral engineer, neuroplastician, drug rehab consultant, creator of Eutaptics and Faster EFT. If you're ready to discover the missing piece that can transform your experience with chronic fatigue and autoimmune symptoms, then keep listening. Hi, Robert.
Hey, that's a very hot topic, I'm telling you. Pain, pain, pain. How does pain work? And of course, working with people with severe illnesses. Now, I started out actually very in the very beginning, 1999. Pain was the thing that I really worked on. Matter of fact, I worked on myself. I had a pain in my shoulder, and within 3 to 5 minutes, it's gone. Now, granted, it's not chronic fatigue, it's not fibromyalgia, it's not DME, it's not chemical sensitivities, Hashimoto's, none of that, but it worked. And then, of course, this is back in 99. Now, I have loads, and I say a lot of testimonials with people with severe illnesses, like really big drug tested problem there, drug tested problem gone, Hashimoto's, lupus, nerve damage, Lyme's disease, POTS disease. Oh, the list goes on and on. But in the
Right.
beginning days, that's I started out with pain, and that's first was my pain on myself. And at that time, I walked into the bedroom, and my wife was sitting there at the foot of the bed watching TV, and she had this look on her face. I go, "Are you okay?" She goes, "My stomach hurts." I go, "Do you mind if I help you with it?" Because I started this process, and I started using the process and addressing whatever that is. And within like 5 minutes or less, the pain was gone, stomach was gone. It was good. But that took me on a journey, a long journey of understanding how and why we have pain. What is pain? What's its meaning? What's its purpose? Where does it come from?
Right.
The cause. So
Mhm.
I understand that part.
And please subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends, especially the ones that are struggling with these autoimmune issues, chronic fatigue, any kind of skin issue. This is the podcast where Robert will give you the answers. It's usually the missing piece. When people come to us, it's usually they will say this was exactly what they were missing. Yes. Okay, so before we dive right into what is chronic fatigue, what are autoimmune issues, I think it's important to start here. What makes you, Robert, the authority on these issues? These are big topics.
Well, yeah. Well, because I have results, I create results, I can show you how to get results. I've been doing it for 26 years. And everything you'll hear from me today will make sense. It's logical and it's practical. And I have helped people with some of the worst pains that doctors can't get rid of. Hashimoto's disease, that's a big one. That's the doctor says, don't try your diets, none of that will work. You're going to have it the rest of your life. Blood tested gone. Same with lupus. There's several people who came to my system who had lupus. Rose Hartgrove was one of those. I mean, she was a psychiatric nurse. She had lupus in her blood system, and she really drove me crazy too. Back in 2015, she kept writing. She wants me to do a session. She wants to come to the training, and she came to the training. I helped her with that, and she got there in the training, and she wanted me to give her a session. I couldn't. I had too many things going on. My life was too busy, but I hired a couple of my practitioners. I paid for it to give her a session. All right, so she goes to session. I told them because you can hear how people create their problem. I can hear it. It's very logical. And I told them go do this, change that, address this. main contributing factors. All right, so she did her 2-hour session, and she said she rolled out in her wheelchair. By the way, she's in a wheelchair. She came, um, and she said, as I rolled out, I started to notice my lupus symptoms were already fading. I'm not sure is it the colors or whatever it was, sensitivity to the lights. I don't know, but that was in October. Now, of course, in my trainings, you can change yourself, which shows you how to change yourself. And she took the You Can Change Yourself. She started doing what I trained her to do, showed her how to do it. And of course, I'm doing another You Can Change Yourself in Oklahoma City in February. All right. So her friend who helped support her financially to get her to come to see me and come to the training, he said, "Aren't you going to go to Oklahoma City?" She said, "No, I've already been there." She said, "You need to go. And if you don't go, I won't be your friend anymore."
That's
So
a
he
good way.
so he financially supported her and she came. Now, here she is in the second You Can Change Yourself course. She's not in a wheelchair. She's walking now with a cane. She's sitting in the seminar. Her phone keeps going off and she looks down. It's her doctor. So on the break, she goes and she listens to the message. Now, before she came to Oklahoma City, she went and did her blood test and all that work. Now, he's calling her saying, "Hey, there's something really strange. There's no sign of lupus in your blood system."
Wow.
No sign. Now, again, it wasn't because she did one session. It's because she used the system in which I teach, which is show you how your brain used the past to recycle in our future today, how to use your mind to create personal healing and personal transformation, personal power. And so that is the result of that. Now, unfortunately, she's had a lot of steroids, and steroids really screw your body up. So,
Yes.
but yeah, she's had, I mean, so it's lupus tested gone, and lupus tested there.
Right.
Uh,
Wow.
that's
And
my,
that's real results right there.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Rose Hargrove. 15 years ago, I was working as a charge nurse nights in psychiatric emergency, and I started to get severe joint pain. Pain so bad that I would cry. And I developed severe fatigue. I had fevers. I had difficulty walking. All kinds of, I had migraines that would send me to the emergency room, severe migraines. My doctor, they couldn't figure it out. Then I saw two specialists that are called rheumatologists. They specialize in inflammatory diseases. My lupus was diagnosed. Then I got to go to the Las Vegas practitioner training and had a session. And shortly after that, I had lupus, systemic lupus, and after that the symptoms started dropping off. I came to Oklahoma City for training, and my iPhone kept going off, and I had it on vibrate. And it went off several times, and there was a message on there, and it says, "Your lab work has come back with no lupus symptoms. No signs of lupus." And it kept going off. It like 3 to 5 times, and I thought, why on earth would he call me? Like, he never calls me more than once. He just leaves a message. Apparently this was a big deal. And there are no symptoms of lupus. There are no inflammatory markers of lupus. It is, for all intents and purposes, gone. I feel good. I have energy. I don't get flares. I don't have photosensitivity. None of the symptoms that are listed as lupus symptoms. I mean, if your blood work comes back negative and the complete physical is negative, then, what can you say? It's gone. If you have lupus, if you have cancer, if you have rheumatoid arthritis, you have an inflammatory disease, try this. You will lose nothing. There are no side effects, and you might gain your life. I did. I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm grateful. Robert has been very compassionate. I have gotten my life back. I have a son that I want to live for. I am happy, and I urge anyone that I know with lupus. I know several women with lupus. Please try this.
All right. So you just heard Rose, and she shares her little story. It's a pretty big story. It's a really good story. But so when we talk about physical pains, how does it work? How does chemical sensitivities? How does um, even panic attacks, fears and phobias? But when we're talking about illnesses, uh, it's very simple, especially when you have like hypersensitivity to sounds, to smells, to chemicals of any sort or any kind. A lot of people are diagnosed with Lyme disease and many other chronic disease. And so I said, I've never been around ticks. I don't know how I got diagnosed with Lyme disease. Well, this
Yeah.
happens to be a blanket that the doctors throw over people and just give them a label.
Right. So when we're talking about autoimmune issues, a lot of doctors will say it's the immune system fighting against itself. It is
Mhm.
an inflammatory response. And
Hmm.
for some people, they might not even be diagnosed with autoimmune issue, but yet they have the sensitivity.
Hmm. Right,
They have certain things that are showing up.
right. So
But
yeah.
go ahead.
So what is creating this? That's the $100 question. That's a
Yeah.
$1 million question for you guys. A lot of people who got a lot of these symptoms, everything we mentioned, they're going to go to a therapy or a system. They may use light therapy. They may use Gupta to try to be positive, DNRS to try to be positive. They'll do meditation, try to be positive because they're trying to calm the mind, change the mind. Hopefully, the body will follow. And so, my experience with a lot of people, I mean, literally hundreds, with any of these problems, it all breaks down to train emotional systems that they either learned in childhood or later. Now, this is a common program. I see it right and left. Anybody who ever came to see me. First of all, this woman, I recently worked with this woman, and so here it is. She's an educator. She's a very smart woman. Uh, and so she booked a session with me because she's chronic fatigue. She's got chemical sensitivity. She can't sleep on a mattress. She can't sleep in the home she just bought. She's a teacher, and she traveled for an hour from the home she was in, no symptoms, no problems, just normal everyday life. And then she bought this house really close to the school. And then all of a sudden, she started to get physically ill and all kinds of stuff. Of course, you go to the doctor. The doctors don't know how to fix this. They
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
They say, we'll give you some antibiotics, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. Let's see what works. And now she's living she moved out of her home and she moved into some kind of care place, a really nice place, but she can't sleep on the bed. She has to sleep on metal chairs because of the sensitivities. Now, of course, she says, well, they found mold under the floor, right? And of
Okay.
course, I worked with enough people. I know that this is not the problem. This is a symptom. This
Mhm.
is a self-protective system that the mind is using to stay safe. So I asked questions. I said, tell me about your life, Tell me about your childhood. Well, her childhood was not a good one. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of emotional toxicity in the air. There's a crying mother, the angry sister, and the handicapped sister, and she's stuck in the middle of all of them, and she's scared too. She had a mean uncle who would torment her living in this small little place as a child, right? But the child went to school. She was shy and scared. But the teacher kind of fancied her and helped her and helped education. She blossomed at school. So guess what she does now? She's a school teacher, right?
Wow.
And guess what kind of children does she work with?
Mm.
Angry and handicapped children. So she never left home. But
Right.
what she also brought with her is the programmings.
Yes.
So I said, tell me about the event and your new home. What about, I just love it. Beautiful and all this stuff. I said, anything bad about the home? She said, well, there is a neighbor I don't like. Loud, abusive, mean, drinking, dogs. Guess what? That triggered that uncle way back there. So her brain goes into fight or flight. hypersensitivity. And now she's not consciously aware that it is a repeating pattern until I started addressing this. And so here it is. She thinks it's the mold. She thinks it's this or that. And it wasn't. It was the emotional toxicity from her childhood
Right.
coming up now, triggered by the person. Now, again, your brain recycles. It has an alignment. You may leave your toxic family and you go to school and you may have a toxic person there. Or it may be the toxicity of sounds or
Right.
smells or microwaves, whatever it is,
Right.
because you're staying in alignment with your system.
Hmm.
So again, this is 1,000 stories I've heard. One child, one lady, she's had chronic, what is it called? Multiple chemical sensitivities. Her kids can't come and see her, and so nothing in the house. She was just trapped in her home.
Right.
Again, we start going back, and she started working on her stuff. She started watching my trainings and started tapping and working on these memories. And she said, ever since I was a child, I was so scared. I'd go to bed terrified at night for fear of burning in hell because of she obviously her religious training has impacted her. So burning in hell. So she started a life of fear, scared, relationships toxic, and then she becomes a nurse. By the way, if you become a nurse, I have a lot of nurses come to my system are ill. They come, and again, you're being exposed to more trauma, more pain, emotional toxicity. It starts to compound over the years. And then all of a sudden, something will happen. Sometimes for one woman, it's the birth, pregnancy, getting pregnant. Even though she's in her 40s, she has to have this child, but then her fears about having this child, whatever it is, builds up. And then next thing you know, she's got chronic fatigue, mental heaviness, because birthing of children is sometimes traumatic. Not only just birthing of the child, being stuck with the child, and your freedoms are now taken from you because you've got this little brat you got to take care of. So again, your whole body's changing, your chemicals changing, how you see yourself. This child is now controlling your whole existence. And then again, it's a repeating pattern of the emotional toxicity in the past. Now, the bad thing is with this, with other modalities, they do not know how to change memories. Memories is what creates this.
Right. So
It
you're
recycles.
saying that and this is what you bring your answer right back to is it's what our brain has captured.
Right.
It's what it's captured this experience and it imprinted onto our brain. And this
Yeah.
is the experience that it's experiencing over and over again. But
Right.
for people that are going through autoimmune issues, if they are going, even for alternative therapy, they might be going to frequency therapy, changing their diet,
Hmm.
and they're doing all those things, and they see some results with frequency, with
Yeah. Some. Yeah.
yeah. So it's not always 100% the emotional, whatever your brain captured.
Well,
The
yeah. Let me
mold.
let me kind of explain how the brain works, though.
Okay, sure.
The number one component of changing anything is mental and emotional intention. It could be a bullshit therapy that actually doesn't work, but if you believe it to be working, it will work. There will be a change and shift.
Okay, so then is eutaptics a bullshit therapy?
That's a good question. And here's the facts about your tactics is this. You don't have to believe in it.
Okay.
No belief needed whatsoever. And the reason why it works is that we're going inside of the system of belief.
Mhm.
Now,
So it's
beliefs
yeah,
are
so it's
created,
okay.
but the beliefs are created by memories and experiences and emotions. We develop the model of the world. I mean, the model of the world is how you perceive everything. How way you look around, this is how you perceive it. You're coming from an emotionally toxic world. When I say emotionally toxic, there's fights, you're being picked on, bullied, school, physical abuse, emotional abuse, or sexual abuse. This creates a world, a value system. Now, to me, traumas are not bad. They're just education on how the world is. Now, if you're exposed to that world, that's how the world is. And so your brain will capture pieces and parts to use on you. And so it will keep your mind and your body in alignment. So a lot of times when we talk about physical pain, we're talking about emotional traumas being expressed through the body. Now, the emotional traumas are designed to keep you safe because you've learned that the world could be crazy and you could get hurt again. But the problem is the brain recycles it and it keeps you in a loop of it. Then, of course, when you got you guys who are chronically ill, the number one driving force behind you is fear. Fear of pain, fear of getting hurt, fear of death, whatever it is that you're fearing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just really bizarre. And the truth is the mind is so powerful. So a lot of times your physical pains are really merely emotional expressions of unresolved emotional experiences. And it's screaming in your body. And the reason why it does that, it keeps you safe. It's like I worked with this woman and she walked with her butt tucked under. And she just, with her butt tucked under. And so I was working on her. And so we started talking about her emotional traumas. And she goes to a memory where her dad actually kicked her in the ass and it hurt like hell. And from that point forward, her brain says, tuck it under. Maybe they won't kick you again.
Right.
So that's a self-protective system.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So working with the symptoms, like that's exactly what the medical doctors are doing right now. The medical profession,
Mhm.
they give you a cream for the itch, for any kind of skin issue, or a prescription. And if you're going to go to
Mhm.
alternative medicine, they're going to go give you maybe a protocol, but it's always working with the symptoms. And so medical doctors, they focus on the symptoms,
Yeah,
on symptom management.
right. Now,
And
again, you have to understand, if you're a hammer, you see nails everywhere. Now, they're trained to do two things. One, they're going to see that they notice something wrong, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to cut it out or give you
right,
drugs. That's their skill set. Now, here it is. You go in to see the doctor and you got ulcers. The doctor's not going to say, well, how's your emotional life? Any stresses going on in your life? He doesn't say that. Well, there's something wrong with your stomach. We probably need to do it by something to it.
right,
And so again, that's what they do. Now, you can't go to someone who only sees two problems. Either you got to cut it out or drug it up.
right,
And
right.
so they're doing the best job. And guys, if you have physical issues, see your doctor, okay? But so there are different doctors all out throughout the world.
That's right. Hmm. Yeah, but if they're constantly giving you a Band-Aid for a symptom, then it's time to question what you're doing.
Yeah, well, again, these are systems. Now, there's a lot of doctors out there who I have trained who actually come to my system and they know the value of what I teach.
So what you're saying is it's not a placebo. Utaptics is not a placebo.
Well,
There's
let me explain what placebo is because obviously people don't know
yes.
what it means. First of all, we have a tendency, placebo means fake. Now, reason why we hear that, we get that idea is that you got this researcher with a lemon in his mouth. He's bothered because placebo is now outperforming their real drug. So, what is placebo? Placebo isn't fake. Placebo is the mind's great ability to heal itself in spite of the fake operation, the fake drugs. It's the brain that does it by what it does internally. Now, this is scientifically proven. Nocebo effect is that means the person's belief system and value system says it ain't going to work, it's not going to work, it's not safe for it to work. And in their mind, they rehearse and play it doesn't work. And guess what? It's a real surgery that should have worked. It's the real drug that should have worked, and it doesn't work. That's because of the power of the mind. So when people hear placebo, they think it's fake. Placebo is proof that the mind can heal itself, and it does. It oftentimes outperforms great drugs.
That's so good. So it's proof.
There's proof. Yeah,
Yes. Very good.
yeah.
So if you've tried managing symptoms and it hasn't worked for you, this is your moment to do something different. Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's time to do something different. Go ahead and book a private session with Robert. Get to the bottom of the real issue.
Robert saved my life. So I had a perfect life until March 29th of last year when I went to work and I get a phone call, a frantic phone call, a woman who is telling me that she had an affair with my husband for 2.5 years. that I need to know that. And I said, well, thank you very much. This is very kind of you to call me. And I hang the phone. And so my whole world actually got completely shattered because I didn't really expect that, right? So I'm an oncologist, so I treat people with cancer. And so I've done a lot of like personal work in the past, and I read a lot of books, and psychology is my pastime, and I really enjoy that. So I'm not your, regular doctor who you would come to and kind of tell you these mean things, or tell you you have 3 months to live and stuff like that. I don't do that. So I'm very aware of who comes to the door and what they need, and how can I actually uplift them. And if I manage to uplift them and give them some kind of hope, no matter how small that is, but it's so significant, and I know that they'd hang on to my words. So I do a lot of placebo, and it actually really fucking works. It's amazing, because we have these white coats, right? And it's like, whoa. Anyway, and I'm aware of that. I'm totally aware of that. So, but I'm also aware, sometimes I ask them, why did you get cancer, right? And they tell me, oh, well, my husband left, he had an affair. Like, hello? Who is looking me in the mirror? And I was so aware that if I stayed, like, it was my decision to leave at the end, because I was aware if I stay in that marriage, I'm actually going to get cancer. And when I got out, I was aware that if I don't clean myself up, that I'm actually going to get cancer. And I have 12 to 18 months. This is why there was this absolute panic to do like something like now, because the time is very limited, and I know that. And so it's 10 months now. And I'll tell you, I'll never get cancer, because I don't need it. I don't need, people get cancer for various different reasons. And I had a friend who I asked her, why do you get cancer? And she told me, because my husband cheated on me, and I just wanted to get even at him. Okay? And she said to me, and I said, wow, I said, that's a bit kind of scary what you're saying. And she said, well, I can also control everybody with my cancer. Like, she was very self-aware. But she also died from the cancer, right? So, like, and I think, do I need that? Do I want to control my husband with this? Do I want to get even with him? Absolutely not. Like, Robert actually helped me with kind of reframing the whole situation, where I look now, it still kind of hurts to a point, but not as much. And I'm thinking, like, this man actually, I know that he loved me. I know that what he did was really because he had his own issue, and that's what his dad did, and that was the way that, they cope in the family. They find other girlfriends or whatever. And that was really his gift to me. It really was. For me to finally address something that I needed to address, and to release me, because I would have never otherwise left him. So what a gift of love, really. And that's how I see it right now. Not 100% of the time, so don't get me wrong, it's just hard. But, when I'm kind of calm, like, I can actually see that way. So that's how Robert saved my life. So thank you, Robert, yeah.
That is so very good.
So here's one of the most important things about what she said, and it's true. Science is proven, after a major catastrophe, death, dying, divorce, job change, depending on how you respond, mostly they find within 2 years, they back it up. You got cancer 2 years or more or less, some major trauma, something. And she's a doctor, she knows that. And so the point is, and it does support exactly what I've been saying. Memories, unpleasant memories to the brain is not bad, but it's also kind of reminding you to not let it happen again. But the problem is it's happening again in your mind. You're staying in alignment. Your body is crying because of the trauma that you went through. And again, if you don't fix it, it continues. It starts to deteriorate your health and your life and your world. And the bad thing is, as it's happening, you consciously are emotionally feeding it with fear, imagining the worst scenarios, and then, being angry and upset and frustrated and bothered and scared, and all this stuff feeds a monster that's destroying you from the inside. So that's why it's autoimmune. That means your inside, your emotions are affecting you in a big, unpleasant way. So you got to make peace with that.
Yes, and that all that work is that's what you're doing in your inner world. And she was smart enough to look for something for her emotions, sitting there in the meeting, and she found your video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and I wanna address another thing that she mentioned. She said she wasn't one of those doctors that, and I don't know exactly what she said, it wasn't very clear.
Mhm.
But she wasn't one of those doctors that said, okay, you will have this condition for a lifetime. And so
Or
she,
you'll die within 3 months because she's a cancer doctor.
yes, exactly. And that is so significant because people are given, here's your
Mhm.
3 months.
Mhm.
And then sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's the 3 months, but they're very, there's the placebo effect as well. You
Yeah,
now will
yeah,
live 3 months.
that's the point that you want to notice too. Her attitude is smart enough to know that it's emotional. When you're supporting someone emotionally, they may come out of their internal conflicts. They start to imagine and produce positivity instead of negativity. Whatever they practice in mind, they get more of. But
Yes.
here's the key though. If you don't make peace with the divorce pain, the rejections, the betrayals, or the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, whatever it is, it will wreak havoc in your body. You know, you look at one of the books we use. This is Louise Hay, Heal Your Body, and basically she's talking about uh, how your emotions affect your body. And it's called body language. So for some of you, you'll think of something that bothers you. You feel it in your heart, you feel it in your stomach, you feel it in your neck, you can feel it anywhere. So it becomes, they call it anachoresis. That means your brain will express emotional fears, hurts, or wounds in a specific point in your body as a raving red flag for you to consciously to address something. But since you're consciously ignorant, you don't know what to do, you probably feed the dragon. That means you imagine you're going to die, you think you're getting worse, or maybe you will go take a hot shower and listen to some positive music. It depends on your coping skill. So Louise Hay, she lists a lot of different things, but she also said in the beginning of her book here, she says, you know, I've always had reproductive issues, fibroids, pain, cancer, whatever. And she said it must have had a connection to the sexual abuse from my stepfather. So the body shares what the mind holds. Now, there is a misnomer out there saying the body keeps the score. It doesn't keep the score, it expresses the score, and the scorekeeper is memory. You know, there's a lot of theories out there. They got the vagus nerve theory. Now, of course, the vagus nerve, they're blaming or pointing at the vagus nerve, and you got to calm your vagus nerve. Well, let me explain something. Your vagus nerve is merely a communication highway. It's only going to express what memories hold, what your brain holds. And depending on how intense the memory is, it'll determine what the vagus nerve will produce in the body. So again, doctors and other people are going to say it's the body's fault. There's something broken, there's something wrong. But the reality is it's the mind, it's the memories. Now, again, a lot of people are physically ill and they've had some good reasons to be physically ill because of the emotional hell they went through. So the last thing they will ever want to do is go visit. Because if they do visit in the old past, when they go to a talk therapist, when they're done, they feel like they're going to kill themselves. They get worse.
Right. Yes.
But within my system, we change the memories. But again, somebody who is physically suffering, they said, beat me with a stick, but don't taunt me emotionally. So they're emotional runners. And you can't run from what's inside because it goes with you everywhere. So what we do is we go and rewrite story, change the past. Now, again, remember, when we say we change the past, you can't change something that doesn't exist. But what we do is we update how you internally represent your past. It is the internal representation that will dictate what you do, how you feel, and how you identify yourself as.
Mhm.
So if you update those, change those, you'll be a happier, healthier person.
That's right. And so you said something about running or escaping
Right.
from the issue, and that's exactly when you're working with when you're working with just the symptoms, like the surface
Mhm.
issues,
Mhm.
they're going to keep coming up. They're
Yeah.
going to keep
Yeah.
expressing itself because
Yeah.
the root issue has not been addressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, a lot of people, they've come to my system because, I mean, they did the DNRS and it helped, but they still got it and it's still lingering because they didn't change the cause, or Gupta too, or even Joe Dispenza as well. If they're not directly changing the memory, which is the cause, it's still lingering. You're still controlling it. You're still dating it. You're still taking it out with you. You're still tormenting yourself with it. And so they're trying to say, don't look what's inside. So you're always looking over here. Well, you're looking over here, it's okay. But when things slow down and you go back to normalcy, this here comes back. And so to stop that is to actually update that where there's nothing to come back but good stuff.
Yes. Okay. So then how would someone know when it's completely gone? So they've
Well,
gone to
that's
your system. Yeah.
yeah, that's $100 question, really. The thing is that you physically know it's there and you physically know it's gone. When we talk about memories, now you and I could go to one of your worst memories, no matter how big or how bad it is. And I've worked with the worst stuff you could ever imagine, rapes, beatings, murders, you name it, torture. I've done it all. And when we get done with this memory, when we've finished it, you can try to make it come back. You can dig it in. You try, you can't. You know it happened, but it's not internalized the same. And that means you can talk about it like I went to the grocery store, bought a carton of milk, came back home, had a bowl of cereal. So what? But before that, won't even look close to it. They'll break down and cry.
That's right. There we go. So there's no emotional charge.
Mm-mm. No, and no internal visualization of it too. The visuals are
Right.
too.
Yes. Yeah. And there's lots of parts and pieces to that.
Yeah.
And your system is very organized in the way to deal with this.
Right. Right.
There is a way to
Yeah.
look at how
Yeah.
you're imprinted.
See, another thing too, with what I teach and working on your body, you're actually doing a mental, emotional, and personal makeover. Your identity will shift and change. You'll be healthier, more in control. You won't be sick. You won't be blaming the world for your problems. You'll be operating from the upper level, we call it, which is I'm in control of my life and I'm in control of how I respond to you. And so you'll get a mental, emotional makeover. I mean, you'll
That's right.
be you'll be expressing and creating something the opposite of what you're now creating. By the way, illnesses, pains are not failures, they're great creations of the mind.
Mhm.
And if you don't like what you're creating, you got to change the ingredients in which creates that, which are memories.
That's right. Yes. Okay. And so for the people that are struggling with the autoimmune issues, it's maybe even for years, Robert, and they're skeptical.
Oh
They're
yeah.
listening to you. They've now
Yeah.
heard the doctor, but they are still skeptical.
Mhm.
They're probably thinking, I'm the unicorn that it's not going
Oh,
to work for.
all of them that way. Every one of them is I'm the only one that's not going to work for. It works for everybody else but me. All right. I've already tried everything, nothing works. Now I'm going to tell you something. It's just like weight loss. If you go to a diet program or a drug program to lose weight, it won't work because weight is not a problem. Your illness is not a problem. Your illness is a production of the great unconsciousness. And so if you change what creates it, it stops creating it. It creates something the opposite.
That's crazy. You just said the illness is not the problem when that's
Mm-mm.
exactly what people are looking at. They're looking at what's on the
Yeah.
surface, what the
Yeah.
body's
Yeah.
expressing.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, most people are ignorant about this part. That's the unconscious, the limbic operating system.
Yeah.
We are consciously aware of what's happening right here. So the brain will produce it in the body, consciously go, oh, I'm going to die. I'm having a heart attack. Am I having a heart attack? Am I going to die? What's wrong with me? It's just a panic attack. And your brain is creating this fear to protect you because this scenario resembles something in your past.
Mhm.
So again, we consciously notice our body. We're not consciously aware of why our body is responding
That's right.
and what
Yes.
our brain is trying to do.
Yes. Yeah. And if you do go to get some unconscious work done, maybe you're going to go to a hypnotherapist and they might regress you all the way back to a past life. So, um, so maybe we won't use that.
I know you use, well, again, I mean, my view about past life, and you know it, but I'm going to share it anyway.
Yes,
I don't believe in your childhood either. Past lives are creations of the mind. Your childhood today is a creation of your mind. Your childhood doesn't exist. It's a fantasy today. And it's a distorted fantasy based on what you hold inside your mind. So your brain is a metaphoric machine. It expresses from ideas, concepts, where we pick it up from TV or mom or our childhood. So it is unconscious. But again, a lot of people will be chasing rainbows and rabbits, and they're going to get some fun out of it occasionally, meet some good people. Doesn't mean their body's going to change. But the key is just going back to what the cause is, which is
that's
memory.
right. Yeah. So I do want to speak to those unicorns out there that believe they're the unicorn and they believe that they're skeptical. They really do believe it's not going to work for
Mhm,
them.
mhm,
So I just want to offer you right now that we are offering a free strategy session.
mhm,
You can jump on this call. You can get really clear about what is happening in your life. We can map out the right path for you. And it's a specific path. It's for you personally. So if you finally want to start moving forward in the direction of real change, this is an opportunity.
mhm.
Okay, so for listeners who have suffered for years and might be skeptical, what can they expect when they address the root cause the way you teach it?
Well, first of all, if you're skeptical, be an honest one and be willing to try something. Um, and you can go to the core. I have videos, like for example, got video number 69 on YouTube. Pull that video up, pick a memory, try it. It'll work. If you're skeptical, go watch some of these videos I mean, I got hundreds of them where doctors and nurses and normal everyday people tell how ill they were and how they're no longer ill. They even tell you how they did it. And it's my system. So again, but here's the thing. If your skepticism is keeping you locked in your personal crazy cage and you never come out, that's not good either. So you got to come out. Again, you can't have something better if you don't change what you do.
That's right. Yeah. And please subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends, especially the ones that are struggling with these autoimmune issues, chronic fatigue, any kind of skin issue. This is the podcast where Robert will give you the answers. It's usually the missing piece. When people come to us, it's usually they will say this was exactly what they were missing. So you've helped people reverse conditions doctors said were lifelong. Robert, what's your opinion on illness and pain?
Illness and pain, in my mind, is first of all, you're not sick and you're not ill. I know it feels like you are, and there's probably diagnoses, but I believe that your mind is producing these symptoms to protect you. Now granted, let's say for example, you know, poison ivy, you can have poison ivy and you can make a big emotional deal of it and it gets worse. Or you get poison ivy, you don't emotionally invest in it and it fades off. So there's a lot of things that if you fall down and you break your arm, the bone sticking out, it really does stick out and it really does hurt. But for some people, it continues to hurt the rest of their life. They never get over it. It's like the lady who came in and she's had TMJ. She's had surgery after surgery, doctor to doctor, and they can't find anything wrong, but she still got the pain. And it's like the guy who came in to see me who had his arm amputated. Same thing. So I said, okay, so you got this pain. You tried every doctor, everything, and it's still there. She goes, yes. I said, let me ask you about your childhood, your life growing up. Well, her dad was an angry dad, and he would slap her. Where did she slap her? Right here. Guess what? These memories of being slapped and the pain was still alive in her mind. And this is also what we call an emotional reminder and also the connection with dad. We address the memories of dad and the pain of what he did and how she felt. We address the pain in her mind. The pain went away and it's gone. Chemical sensitivities, food sensitivities. I'm in Wichita, Kansas. I don't remember what the woman's name is. She came in and she raised her hand. Does this work on allergies? I said, I don't know. Let's give it a try. I know it does. So I don't know. Let's give it a try. All right. She comes sit in a chair. And so I explained how I see, allergies work. And basically I said, you could be sitting there eating a bowl of cereal and somebody yells at you. And while you got being yelled at, the emotional there and the food's in your mouth, your brain will link those two together, ring the bell, feed the dog, yell at the child, link it to what's in your mouth. And I turned to her and she's crying. I said, what kind of allergy are you talking about? She says, well, I have a milk allergy. I eat it, it comes out really nasty. And I love milk, but I can't have it. And I said, but why are you crying? She goes, because I'm a little girl. I'm sitting at the kitchen table with my sisters, and my dad's there, and he's a dairy farmer, and he's making us drink the milk that's already soured. Guess what the milk does in her body? It sours and comes out in a sour way. So I addressed the emotional issues about dad, emotional issues about the food going in and out. She went back to Texas, and she wrote me and she said, my husband is amazed that I am eating cheese and all that stuff and it's gone, gone. He also was very excited that I'm helping him with knocking strokes off his golf game too, right? Because he learned my system, right? Now, here's a bizarre thing, because sometimes our symptoms represent people. Now, at that time, when I did that, I was at the very early age of my growth and understanding. I could have prevented this next step that I'm going to tell about her story. So she comes back 10 years later, and I'm in Oklahoma City now. And she raised her hand and said, 10 years ago, you got rid of my allergic reaction to milk. And this year, it all came back. I said, come on up, have a seat. I asked her one question. She started to cry. You know what I said? How's your dad?
Wow.
He starts crying. He goes, he's dying of cancer. So again, some of these symptoms, some of these things are linked to people, experiences, and traumas. So,
Don't wait another day. Don't
yeah.
wait another day. Start working on your memories.
And just like, just like Maya, she said, I know that this trauma could have a very negative effect on my health. And she was smart enough to do something to save her life.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so that's how it works.
Right. Wow. That was good. What's different about your approach that makes this possible?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference in what I do and a doctor does, doctors are treating you physically. And what I do is we change what makes the physical squirm in its seat, and that is memories. And of course, it's how if you think about it logically, you have a report to do tomorrow. Why do you feel like you feel sick and you want to lay in bed and you don't want to go to work? It's because the emotions are going to hold you back. And so what I do is we address the emotions and the system that created it, which are memories and experiences. So that's the biggest difference. One of them is physical and the other is metaphysical, mental and physical. It's a psychosensory process, addressing the mind and the body as one.
I had been sick for 18 years with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, and multi-chemical sensitivity. On top of all of that, I had my immune system, I had infection after infection, I was on antibiotics, I was, just not doing well, fatigued, I wasn't sleeping, and so it was rotten. So I'm a registered nurse. I worked for 25 years as a registered nurse. And I left work in 2011 thinking that if I took a couple months off work, I'd get better and, feel okay. 4 years later, I'm still disabled and off work. So while I was off work, I created this little bubble of a world for myself. It was very isolating. The chemical sensitivity meant that people couldn't come into my house even if they had scented deodorant on. I would react to that. I would get confused. I would get lethargic. If I went somewhere and there was scents or chemicals or whatever, I would not be able to find my way out of a room. That's how bad I would get. And the pain, the fibromyalgia from head to toe, like it was just brutal every day. So I tried all the drugs, I did all the therapy, I sat on a couch for 10 years, talking about my shit. I always was able to it would get me through the day, and When I was off that 4 years, I was bedridden, housebound for a period of time. There was a period I could not even tolerate sound or even daylight. I was in a dark room and couldn't even, basically didn't have the energy to get back from my bed to the bathroom and back. So it was really rotten. So in the fall of 2014, my husband was away working and I was in severe depression. It was, each day I woke up was like, oh no, not another day. And I had a lot to live for, but I couldn't see it at that time. So I remember just, I cried all day long. I was like, I did not know, I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live either. It was an awful situation to be in. It was a Saturday night. I remember I was home alone, and I punched in anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, fibro, all those things. And a list popped up, and then the list was faster. And being a nurse, like I kind of knew all the other modalities, but I didn't know this faster EFT thing, so I went into it. And it was the best thing I ever did. So I listened to Robert. I watched the first few videos that came up because I just wanted to know. I've always had that curious personality. And I started tapping. And in 2 weeks, my MCS was gone. The MCS was gone. My pain was gone. My energy was coming back. My depression lifted in 2 weeks, just 2 weeks. And it was incredible. My doctors couldn't believe it. No one could believe it. And so I went from I used to have to wear a mask when I'd leave my home, to I just would go grocery shopping or doctor's appointments. And so being able to leave my house and not have a mask on was pretty liberating. So Robert's given me my life back, you know, given me back to my family, you know. And so it's the best thing I've ever done, best thing I ever found. But the key to it all is be persistent. Don't give up. And you have the power inside you, all of you. Everyone in this room has the power to change your life, to be healthier, to have what you've ever wanted. And you will find yourself in this process.
That is so powerful, Robert. And for older people, there's a lot of older people that are struggling with issues, but they feel shame because they should know better. And so
Yeah. You know, that's another thing too. Older people, you know, people like you or me. So the older you get, now here's a bizarre thing. A lot of I say unwanted changes, which you also call losses. You know, people die. Your children leave. They grow up and they leave you. You know, your job will change and you lost your job or you retired. All of these create emotional losses and they start to accumulate. And the bad thing is, you know what happens? People you love die. If you don't know how to process that, it'll start to wear heavy on your body. Unwanted changes. COVID made a big mess of people. You know, it's not really COVID, but the governments create a big mess in our lives. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people, families excommunicated other families because of the shot.
right.
Major losses, major traumas. And then, of course, it wreaks havoc in your body because your brain doesn't know how to process it, so it puts it there.
That's
So,
right.
yeah, a lot of losses, older people.
Yeah. Hmm.
But those who live the longest, who lives over 100 years, there's a theme. First of all, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't make a big deal. Secondly, they use their mind. They're actively using their mind. Third, they do something physical that makes them feel good. They have a purpose, they have a mission, they're doing something, and they're always learners. And that's what my grandmother was. She lived to 97, always learning, always studying, always doing things. So the key is, it's the longevity, is let it go, release it, give it away, and don't play it in your mind anymore.
That's
So,
right. And there's no shame. It doesn't matter what age you are. There's
mm,
no shame. And now that you know that you can change your memories and that you will change your life when you do that,
mm,
start changing the memories.
yeah. Yeah, and when we say change of memories, you update it where it doesn't bother you, it doesn't seem to be a real problem. You accept it, but you're not taunted by it.
Hmm.
And that truly is the key.
Yes. Yep. And you will find that in You Can Heal Yourself Master Training, and that
Yep.
will help
Yep.
you.
Master. Yep. Well, you can change yourself master training. We also have You Can Heal Your Body. We have chemical sensitivity courses. We have grief and loss courses. We have addiction courses. We have just about everything that you want to work on. But I do highly recommend You Can Change Yourself because you need to know how to change yourself. And when you buy the course, it's yours for life. You'll use it for the rest of your life.
Wow.
A lot of people are needlessly suffering. And
Yes.
and again, they try therapy. Like she said, I tried therapy. I should be okay. But see
Physical.
what the physical therapy, but what the difference is that your brain will recycle the emotional stuff through your body. It's like I'm talking on the phone, I'm talking to my friend. You go, yeah, I got a horrible cold. I'm constipated. I feel like I want to die. I got fever. And you get off the phone and you feel like you got the virus too, just by listening to the story. And the reason is it triggered my past illnesses. And we start to feel it. And again, you think about it. I mean, logically, you think your brain is trying to keep you safe. I was in a drug rehab, and the director of the facilities limping around. I go, hey Jeff, what's wrong with him? He goes, he had a motorcycle accident, 3 months ago, and he's still in pain. I said, why don't you ask him if I can help him with it? So it's talking me up. So I go up there and I say, hey, what happened? He goes, well, I was out riding my motorcycle. I jumped this hill and I landed sideways, and I'm hurt. And it said, since then I've had therapy and all this stuff. I still got pain. I said, how strong is your pain now? Just walking goes about 7 or 8 out of 10. And so I started addressing the reference, which is the accident. I said, what's going on inside of you? Can you remember what it felt like when you hit? What was going on inside you emotionally while you're there laying on the ground? He goes, I was horrified because I don't know who's next coming over that hill going to land on top of me. So again, this is the emotional juice. And so his brain was trying to keep him safe and keep him off of the motorcycle for fear of it's going to repeat again. So within not even an hour, within an hour, I addressed the references in his head. And like I said, from 0 to 10 is like a 7 or 8. And just by changing memories, the pain went down to 0 just sitting there. I said, now I want you to get up and move and see if there's any sensations or pains, whatever. He says it's a very slight. So we finished it up and we released it. Then he's walking around like a normal person. But again, this is what the brain does. It tells your body, it expresses through the body to protect you and to keep you safe. Well, if you got a lot of traumas, it's like a badge of honor on your body of the wars you went through, the shit you went through, and it's just trying to keep you safe in alignment because it thinks it's going to happen again. And it is happening again. Every day you exist because your brain recycles it. So to set yourself free, and you can by taking control of what you hold and how you represent it. I mean, I guarantee you this will work. I will say this is not a walk in the park. For some people, you may have a lot of trauma. But listen, if you do nothing, you get the same and it gets worse. If you do something, it gets less and you start to feel better. You have an option. And again, most people just said, no, I'd just rather suffer. I don't want to go there. Well, you will die suffering greatly. It's just
Yes.
how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've worked with so many people. Some people, I mean, it depends on the trauma. It depends on
Hmm.
what they've all captured and how they store
Hmm.
it. But you can clear an issue. You can get rid of an issue in 20 minutes.
Sometimes.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's
Yeah.
as quick as 20 minutes. I've seen it in your tap-alongs.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. But here's
And
another thing. Like Paul, for example, he came to my office. Now, Paul, he had 13 angiograms where they go through his groin, put stents in the back of his veins in the back of his head there, and morphine patches, pain all the time. And he books a session. He comes into my office, and so I mean, I don't guarantee anything except I work hard. That's it. Now, I guarantee we can get measurable changes easily. And so
yes,
when he comes in, he's telling me, I said, okay, what happened? He said, stents and all this stuff. I said, what else is going on in your life around that same period of time? Very key, important question. He goes, oh, yeah, I'm divorcing this crazy woman. And so a lot of anger and a lot of frustration, a lot of rejections, a lot of abandonments, a lot of angers at the doctors and all this stuff. So, he's in pain, real pain. This is not fake pain, real pain. And when I get done at the 2-hour session, there's no pain.
Mhm.
Now he comes back 3 months later, I don't know, 2 months later, and he has a stack of papers. Said, "Look, the doctor says I'll have the pain the rest of my life." And he said,
Wow.
"Where'd the pain go?" I said, "The doctor's got it. He's limping around."
That's right. That's good. And
But
then,
yeah,
yeah, and then for other people, like you said, it's not going to be a walk in the park. If there's a lot of trauma,
if there is, yeah.
if there is a lot of trauma, then
Mhm.
you've got to be persistent with the tapping. Like the last video,
Well,
she,
well, the key is not tapping, it's changing memories. That's the key. We
right.
use we use tapping as one of the tools.
Yes.
Changing memories and changing how you internalize the world is the key.
Hmm.
So we have to clean
Yes.
up stuff.
Yes, that is the key. Hmm.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there is hope. And I've seen so many things that I've worked with, and big things you could never imagine. One of my very first trainings I gave in Wichita, Kansas. This woman, I was it's called the Riverview Retreat. There's like 130 people in the room, and this woman volunteered, and she walked like this. She walked like this, and she shuffled like a 90-something-year-old woman. She's probably in her 50s or 60s, right? And so she had these big lumps, whelps on both of her hands. And of course, she volunteers, and I started asking questions like, "What happened? What's going on? When it occurred?" And she said, "Well, my daughter, she dodged a deer and hit a tree and killed herself." And of course, it really was traumatic for me. And so I woke up one morning, my hands are like this. And so she said, I went to the chiropractor, and they called E-stim. They put these little patches and they adjust the current just enough until you feel it. When you feel it, they stop. And she's been going for quite some time, but this time she goes in. It's a new girl there, and they put the pads on, and she's adjusting. You feel it? No. Just a little bit more. You feel it? No. Just a little bit more. You feel it? No. And she realized it wasn't turned on, so she turned it on while it was full blast. And then she screamed like she's being electrocuted, which she was. She had these big whelps. So we went and we changed these memories. We adjusted the memories where it's not there. In front of these people, 130 people, the whelps on her hand went half down, just in
Wow.
that, however long, 40 minutes maybe. And she didn't shuffle, she walked back to her chair. And then I have videos on there where it's like 6 months later, completely gone, different person. Now, by the way, she had this for 10 years prior to when I did a session on her.
That's results.
Yeah. And these are real deals, real deals. And there's hundreds of them. I got lots of testimonials on my YouTube channel. They're everywhere.
Right. And so for the people that are struggling with autoimmune, maybe chronic fatigue, what's their first step? What do they do?
Well, you got ask your doctor if it's okay for you to work on yourself. Okay. Ask,
Okay.
ask your priest, your rabbi, and your mother, your husband, and anybody else. So you get permission. If you don't need their permission, then the first thing you want to do, or the second thing you want to do, is learn, take one of my courses, book a session, start investing in changing memories. You got to change memories. If you're not changing memories, you're going to be swatting mosquitoes in the dark. You won't hit any. You hear them, and they're going to get you eventually. But what you want to do is be able to go in and start making internal adjustments. Now, I do sessions with people all week long, every day, almost every day. I don't work on Fridays or Saturday or Sunday. Well, sometimes Sunday. But the point is, working with people, changing these big memories, because the pain is very kinesthetic, very physical. And they spend their whole life noticing the physical. And so we have to adjust their focus. We have to set them free from the pain and the judgment, and then they'll start investing in themselves. And next thing they know, they'll be a totally different person, totally different.
So when you're working with pain, what is like the first thing that you go to address? So they're in a lot of pain. Is it usually a judgment that's attached to it? What do you find with pain?
Well, I mean, when I work with pain, pain is what's catching their conscious attention. Depending on the person, depending on the situation, there's many different ways that I'll approach it. I usually look for the history. Now, again, when people come to me, they got pain, they think that's the pain that's the problem.
Yes.
The mold, it's that. They don't realize that it's not a problem, it's a production from the unconsciousness. So they don't know that. So I'm going to have to elicit strategy. Now, usually they book a session with me. I do 2-hour sessions, and they will get a consent form. They'll sign it. You agree to whatever, and then you'll get an email, and you'll write your list. Now, again, I know the list is going to be emotionally charged because that's what's creating everything. And so they'll write a list of every bad experience, every unpleasant whatever happened in their life. Now, it could be a vast array of stuff. It could be as simple as you fell down, you broke your front tooth, and from that point on, you thought you're ugly and no one likes you. Could be that, or it could be a physical abuse or sexual abuse or some trauma. It could be things you witnessed, things that you heard. So the areas that we do, we just do a really good emotional toxic history. And then what we do is I'll go in, I'll start changing each and every one of those. Just adjust them, change them where they don't bother you. And by the first session, you'll know you have changes. There's measurable changes. For example, I fell down and broke my leg. And when I think about it, it's a 10. I feel emotionally this. And when we get done with it, I say, think about it now. It says, well, I don't remember it happened. I know it happened, but I don't care. I can't feel it. I can't see it. So now it's just shifted and adjusted. So we do measurable changes. Now, the final outcome, the desired outcome may take more, that most likely will take more than that. Depends on your resources, but that's how we do it. You book a session, you do your consent form, you send in your list, and then we meet. And then 2 hours are going to disappear like this. Now, a lot of people who are chronic fatigue go, oh my God, 2 hours. I won't last. And so in their mind, they imagine falling asleep, dying or something. And
It's
I assure you, I said, listen, and they're so worried that it'll be so big, but it's not. In 2 hours, it disappear like that.
it's so quick.
Yeah.
It's yeah, you can barely tell that was 2 hours. It's that quick.
Hmm.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts for the listeners?
Well, if I say any closing thoughts is this: the value of your life, how your body feels and responds, is all based on your history. Things that you captured, the things that has impacted you. If you never change those, they still impact your decisions, they impact your health, they hold you down, they restrict you. So what you must do, you don't have to, you can go the slow way to death, suffering way, but if you want to, release those memories of hurt and pain. Release those, change those. The emotional load gets lighter. You start to feel better. You start to have control. You'll be happier than when you were healthier because you now have a great learnings and experiences and personal power. So learn to like yourself by adjusting what you hold inside yourself, because it is what dictates why and how you act. And I know it's a journey. And I know you wasted probably time chasing rainbows and rabbits and catching nothing. You may have had a few good experiences, but it's still there. So we just want to have a measurable shifting change and you'll be free. Like I say, there is hope. And I assure you, we can change that. And I can help you do it. You can learn to do it yourself. I want you to be the master of your life. And so do come and join this system. And if you're a skeptic, that's okay. Skeptics are good, as long as they're honest. And if you're scared, you know this is the place to come because that's where it's at.
It's true.
So, yeah.
Very good. So thank you for hanging out with us on this episode of the Robert Jean Experience. And remember to sign up for Robert's free 5-day online course to get started with learning the system. And we will see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.
I am a physician, and I'm here. I've been practicing for 30 years. I'm a psychiatrist, and I'm very pleased to be here. I've always been in my life, I'm an osteopath, a DO. I think DOs tend to be a bit more open, but I'd like to say I wish that for those of you who are connected with doctors, not all of them are bad. I would like to believe that there are people who are open-minded. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. So maybe it's about reaching out and letting those doctors know. And I think the ones that are resistant are really coming from their own fear. What is possible if we put the opportunity, the option of healing oneself into people's hands, and then maybe the world will be a better place and we'll all be a lot healthier. So I would encourage people to reach out to the people that they do see, search around, the people are there, those people, they're out there, and introduce them to Faster EFT.
Thank you.
2 years ago, I developed this rash. Actually, it started in my hand. So then we started doing kitchens, and I started sanding. I hated it. So that's why I think this started in the hand. So that I kept saying I hated it inside, so my hand gets this issue so that I can't sand. Because my body's telling me, if you don't like it, why aren't you doing anything about it? And if you're not going to do anything about it, I am. That's what I think. So, and obviously if that's what I think, that's what's going to happen, right? So then it gets worse. I go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, gee, that's just eczema. So then I get stuff for eczema. It doesn't go away. So then it gets worse again, and I go back to the doctor, and they go, you know what, we'll put you on cortisone. Then that doesn't work, then we put me on prednisone. Then that worked, right? But it has side effects. And then they said, we can't stay on prednisone for long. So it went away. As soon as I got off prednisone, boom, it's back. So then I'm like, well, maybe I like prednisone. I think I'll go back, because then it gets worse. I'm still in denial of what's really happening. So then I go back on prednisone. I get back. I had to this time go on a wean off, because that's how dangerous prednisone gets, because it'll start affecting your muscles, and down the road you might not walk. So my one doctor is so great, medical doctor, he's trying to figure this out. So then they removed me from the shop. It's the lacquer, it's the whatever, all the chemicals. Then I'm at home and it's getting worse. Now it's on this hand, and I remember watching a video where Robert says, sometimes it'll go from this hand to this hand. And it did. It went from this hand to this hand. And then this hand got a bit better. And then it went back and forth. And then now I have both hands. And then it started going up my arms. So I go back to the doctor, and he sees this. And he goes, oh, my God. I said, look, I'm looking at this Faster EFT. It's looking good. The videos are saying that it works. I'm not getting it to work, but it says it works. And I can't believe all these people are lying. So what do you think if I go on, I'm just going to go and hit. So I said, brought my husband with me, because he's like, well, what, are you sure? What if this gets worse and you die? So my doctor convinced him, or said to him, no, I believe in this. I believe that there's more than we know. And I believe that the body can heal itself, having given the right tools. I will back you. If you're rushed, I'm telling you, it might get worse, but it won't hurt you. You will be okay. If you're with professionals that know what they're doing. I got so bad, like it was so hard to even shower, because it was like bleeding and stinging. So I would tap in the shower. It ended up being that the most relief I got was in the shower. It was the most pain, but it became the most relief. Anyway, so I started tapping, and when I let go, Mark says surrender. When I let go of the how to and this doesn't work and the stress of it all and what if and all that stuff, everything started to work. I just started to dance, and I started to sing, and I was in the mirror every single day. I did it all in the mirror, and I love you, and all of a sudden the rash went away within 3 weeks. I had this for 2 years. I had a glove on. They called me Michael Jackson. I had this glove on every single day, all over town. I went everywhere with it for 2 years, because I had to keep my hand moist, or it would I wouldn't be able to bend it. And I think it's all because I was doing something I hate. And I feel better and more confident about myself than I have in years. I spent 15 years doing network marketing. So I went to a lot of motivational seminars, a lot. Still never really felt 100% about who I am as a person. Whole heart and whole soul, right? How you can be. And I think that's where the power actually is in whole self. That's why level 1, I'm going to just saturate it till I feel whole, 100% confident, true, in love with life and everyone and myself mostly, so that I own my own power, right? And so Tony Robbins tapes, they're all fantastic. All of this stuff is fantastic. But I've never felt better in lousy what? What's April, May, June, July, August? I've never felt better in 5 months in anything I've ever done than I do right now today. I thank you, Robert, for that.